Hi, my name is Joe Solinanti, and I'm from Petaluma, and I play at Rooster Run Golf Course in Petaluma, California. This is Golf Smarter, episode 999.
Rick Martino told me years and years ago, and when PGA down at their Port St. Lucie complex built the Dye Preserve, he got to spend a lot of time with Pete and Alice Dye, and he goes, I never really knew this, but once they get the routing done, they build every hole from the green backwards. So he goes, if you really want to learn how to play a hole, go stand on the green and look backwards, and you will figure out where you need to hit in from to make the ball hold the green, to make the ball have your best release, to be able to get flags to go for other places. And once you figure out where that is, then you walk backwards to that spot and you go, well, clearly I should be teeing off on the right side of the tee so that it opens up the fairway for me. I don't know if great players do that on tour, but I do know that most of the caddies I see out there pre-walking the course are walking the exact opposite direction of where we're going, and they look at it that way.
How to read golf courses from green to tee to maximize your game. Their old friend Joe Hallet.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Joe.
Fred, it's great to see you again, and I know you're on the road to 1,000, and you got to have a speed bump along the way, so thanks for sneaking me in there towards the ultimate goal. I don't want to slow you down on your charge.
Oh my God, this is not a speed bump at all. This is a celebration. Coming up to episode 1000 is just mind-blowing to me, and I really wanted to feature and focus on the people who I think made this podcast great. And you definitely get to be in the very highest slot here at 999.
If you flip that upside down, it might feel how some players feel about their instructor, 666. You're making me do things I can't do.
Well, actually, episode 666 was with golf course architect Trip Davis.
Well, that is kind of the Antichrist, if you think about it. Those golf course architects sneak little troubles and tribulations in there.
Do you love golf course design, or does it frustrate you?
Boy, that's a really good question. And I do love golf course design. And I think all of a sudden you're seeing, like the Gil Hanses that are out there, and you got the Bo Wellings, and you're seeing a lot of golf courses that are designed that are essentially ecologically friendly, very easy to maintain, and most important, and some of Tiger's new courses, they're very playable. I think we got in that, Pete Dye sort of stuck the golden key in there and opened a door and go, what if we make a par 3 that's surrounded by water? And then everybody else said, I can make it harder than that. And now the operators of the golf course have kind of come back and said, well, we like that, but there's a delay on the 12th hole that is making everybody play this course in 6 hours. So how do we make this a little more friendly? And I do love looking at golf course design because, from a coaching or a playing standpoint, and that too, Fred, you get up there and you go, what in the world were they thinking? Or, wow, this is a great golf hole. And look at we're not even designers, and you can kind of go, look at all the different hole locations you can have here. You could take a risk and play this way, and you could play it safe and play that way. And then you get to those other holes and you go, oh, dynamite. That's all this hole needs is just some dynamite. They should start over on that one. And I think there's a level of play where, Fred, you and I would look at it and go, it's not because I can't play the hole great. It's because the only person who can play the hole great is either Rory McIlroy, Jack Nicklaus, or Ben Hogan, And so, yeah, golf course design is fun. And when it allows places to hit the ball for the average players, places for the better players to take chances, and plenty of spots on the green. It's great to have tricky undulating greens, but when you go over and you look at the greens over in Scotland and Ireland and England, they're also huge. And one of the tougher shots in golf is a really long putt. And, there's nothing to be said about, this is a huge green. I hit the green. That don't mean you're making par. That means you got another tough shot in front of you.
Absolutely. I can't, I've had multiple 60-foot putts. I count out, I measure out my putts all the time. And I've had 60-foot putts, and it's like, okay, you're in 3-putt territory here. That's something you really should be working on, is lagging at that distance. But when you get to the 100-foot putts, it's like, please, can I have a wedge here, please?
I've never swung a putter this hard and this fast unless I was really angry.
Do you have architects that you like look forward to playing their courses, that you really appreciate their work?
Honestly, one of them that always stands out in my mind, I do love kind of the way Gil Hans is letting everything flow around the course, whether it's in the Carolinas or even out in the Palm Springs area, or gosh, one of his earliest designs, and I'm forgetting, oh my gosh, there's a college there and it's just outside Chattanooga. I'm not Somerset, I'll think of it, but Nicholas has his deals. Tom Weiskopf, anytime I've ever played a Weiskopf course and I've gotten to maybe the 12th or 13th hole, I'll look at somebody and go, who designed this course? And they go, Weiskopf. I go, thought so. I'm having a really good time and I'm actually scoring decent. And It's kind of tough. So yeah, I thought he was a great designer, really, just some hidden gems. Interesting.
And as an instructor, and especially because you're a PGA Master instructor and you're coaching at a higher level, how do you incorporate golf course architecture and design into your teaching? Because really what we're doing is we're not playing the golf ball, we're playing the golf course.
I can't give you away all my secrets,
Yes, you can, because nobody's listening.
Honestly, there's two things, and I think all great instructors realize we've never come up with an original idea. We've always learned from our peers. Rick Martino told me years and years ago, and when PGA down at their Port St. Lucie complex built the Dye course down there, the Dye Preserve, he got to spend a lot of time with Pete and Alice Dye, and he goes, I never really knew this, but basically once they get the routing done, they build every hole from the green backwards. So he goes, if you really want to learn how to play a hole, go stand on the green and look backwards, and you will figure out where you need to hit in from to make the ball hold the green, to make the ball have your best release, to be able to get flags to go for other places. And once you figure out where that is, then you walk backwards to that spot and you go, well, clearly I should be teeing off on the right side of the tee so that it opens up the fairway for me. I don't know if great players do that on tour, but I do know that most of the caddies I see out there pre-walking the course are walking the exact opposite direction of where we're going. And they look at it that way. And that's one big thing. So kind of thinking of the way you're going to play it from the green backwards. And then Gail Peterson, who is an amazing, I mean, he's a Hall of Fame instructor, top 100, top 50 Bennett, Sea Island for however many years. She sat down with me one afternoon in Kingsmill, and she got a beverage napkin. Tells you where we were sitting. And she goes, I learned this from Mo Pickens. And she goes, this is what players need to do when they get to a golf tournament. And he said, start with the obvious. A 7-iron off of a flat lie is a 7-iron off of a flat lie, whether you're in Boise, Texas, New Hampshire, or Florida. The range, the course, it doesn't make any difference. That's a waste of your time. When you get to the tee, find your line on the tee that gives you the ability to not run out of room and have the widest area to hit to. I think Scott Fawcett at Decade would tell you that in 2 seconds, Yeah. Find your widest area. And for a good player, make sure you don't run out of room. And I'm telling you as a coach, when you say don't run out of room, this is very important. When you're in competition, you are moving faster and you are hitting the ball further. So if you go, oh, that's 270 there, I'll never reach it. Baloney, you will hit that. I guarantee you will hit that unless you hit an off shot. So not running out of room, give yourself 20 yards, not just 10 yards. All right. So that's one. The speed of the greens, you got to know that. Find out what the sand is like, because the sand is different on every course. You might not always be using your sand wedge if the sand is more beach-like or if it's firmer, or if it's tour stand and it's perfect. You could hit a 1-iron out of there probably if you still had one. So you got to know what the sand is like. And the last thing is kind of interesting. Rough is rough, and you're going to know in 2 seconds the most club you can hit out of there, okay? Find out the grass, the longer grass that's around the green, and find out how the ball will react when it rolls in there or bounces in there. Is it gonna hang on top of the grass? Is it gonna go halfway down the grass, or is it gonna go all the way down to the bottom of the grass? Learn those shots and learn what clubs you need. So in terms of course design, find your line off the tee, figure out what the bunkers, the sand is, get the speed of the greens, and then find out what that longer grass around the green and how the ball is going to be sitting, and learn how to have your shot around there. And when you go watch the professionals practice, you can see them back there on the tee. They're caddy, and they got their sheet out, and they're drawing lines. That's exactly what's happening off the tee. Maybe every fourth hole or so, they'll hit a ball out of a greenside bunker to make sure that the sands are consistent. The putting green and the regular green, they spend hours on there. And then they'll take a couple of golf balls. Sometimes they'll hit a good shot up there, and their caddy will just take 3 golf balls and toss them over there and go, okay, let's hit those and see how it works. It's very efficient, and you learn so much because those are the things that are different on every course you play, and every designer will have their own little spin on it.
Okay, my mind is completely blown. That was so helpful for anybody at any level to have that. Now, of course, it's difficult to walk a course backwards when you're playing public golf, or, if you have a country club, great. I'm sure you'll find times on Monday to be able to go walk your course backwards, but usually it's not the easiest thing to do. So I guess the suggestion would be that make sure when you get to the green of a course you're playing, turn around and look back so that the next time you're there, what do you think?
That's absolutely perfect. And I've been around enough players throughout my career that they do get to the green and then they look back and they go, maybe we should try and carry that bunker. That's a way better line. And if we're downwind, we're definitely going to take it over that bunker. It opens up way down here. So that's a huge suggestion. Oh, and then move along, please.
Yeah, right. Don't stand there drawing pictures on the green, and take your scorecard off the green, leave the area, open it up, then write down your scores. Don't do it on the green, okay?
All right, so I have to tell you a fast story, but this is the best part about spending time with you. We start out with topics and we get way off tangent, but
we have 3 topics today, and there's no way we're going to get to all of them. I just know it.
Like, don't stand there and draw pictures. Of course, you have yardage books. There was a young lady years and years ago that played the tour, Stacy Pramanasud. And she went out there, I think 2 times, maybe 3. And if I'm not incorrect in my story, I believe it was her father who was caddying for her. And as I said, they all have the little yardage books. And I happened to, and I will tell you very humbly, I was caddying for a young lady who I was helping along named NB Park. So she could have picked a better caddy. Anybody who's middle-aged with bad feet and ADD is not a good choice. I can tell you that right away.
No wonder we love each other so much.
Stacy's dad has this book, and I happened to kind of walk by him, and he's over on the side of the green. And I'm like, oh, good Lord. He's drawing out the entire green. I mean, he must have been a courtroom sketch artist at one point in his life, because I'm watching this thing, and it came together in like 30 seconds. She gives him the club. He walks over to the next tee. He's got all the ridges and everything. And I'm like, you guys need to frame these and sign them. They are unbelievable. And he's like, sometimes we like the way we do it better, but never delayed play at all. And I was like, those are works of art, my man. That is just awesome. But today, obviously, we have all kinds of topographical maps that we can pull down from anything. So, but that was old school to a T, and it was a gorgeous work of art.
That's awesome story. Thank you. One of the things that kind of has rattled in my head for years, and I would love to have this disputed because it's probably not right, but I've always felt like the USGA, the governing bodies, let's just say, are advocates for the golf course, more than they're an advocate for the golfer. Right? The goal is to make the golf course as difficult as it can be for every golfer at every level. Right? And so they're more concerned about as opposed to when you talk about growing the game, it's not about the people, it's about the property. My thought. You're laughing.
And let me tell you, I think Mike Wan, who is obviously the executive director of the USGA and did so much great stuff with the LPGA and making that tour become an accessible and exciting tour. I think little by little he's doing that with the USGA. But I think I was chatting with a caddy once, and I said, and he and I were laughing, and he said something about, he said, boy, if the USGA was in charge of NASCAR, it seems like they'd sneak in and underinflate a few of the tires on the guys' cars. And another caddy leaned in and he said, yeah, and they'd probably nick the brake line while they're at it. They go, let's see how you boys do on this oval today. But it is. They are advocates of the golf course, and much to their defense, it is the 1 week a year. If you take out your British and Scottish and Irish and all those type opens where you have weather that you will never deal with based on tour schedules. So you've got that, but it's going to be one of the toughest tests of golf. And I know it's tough on the players, but it's really a way to go, okay, you guys are the 100 best we've seen. You hit your wedges closer than anybody because you go at every flag. You hit your driver further than everybody, and you're tremendous putters. Let's see if you can adapt to a facility or a course that doesn't set up for that. And that is a week where the champions, a lot of times you go, God, that person came out of nowhere. How did they do that good? And they go, well, they adapted. And the other ones that are, it's that big ego going, I will beat this golf course. And you're going, no. First, you got to befriend the golf course and go, could you give me a little birdie here on 6, maybe? And they're advocates for the game. And I think the beauty of what they do is remind us all that this game every day is about adjusting. It's not about overpowering. Some days you're going to play in cold weather. Some days you're going to play in wind. Some days you're going to, and if you just think you can have one set of skills that's going to withstand all those, it's not. If you hit a high ball and it's a windy day, you're going to struggle. If you hit a low ball and you're playing in a USGA event, it's not going to stop on the green. So in a very interesting way, it forces even the best players of the world to maybe learn an added skill set. And of course, the beauty of a guy like Jack Nicklaus is he could work the ball both directions. He could do whatever he wanted to do with the ball. He could hit it high. He could hit it low. And you find a player that can do that, and you got somebody. And then you get someone like Bryson who says, if I can hit it far enough, we all know how long the rough is. I got a sand wedge coming out of there. That's what I was going to hit from 180. I might as well be at 120 and see if I can get it to the green. But again, amazing. That's not overpowering the USGA. That's going, I found a different way to adapt. So it's a love and hate relationship, I think, with the players. And I'm going to tell you on the coaches side, Fred, you haven't lived till you're walking around a USGA, US Open setup, and a player goes, what in the world do I do from here? And I'm going, I knew I should have stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
So we did an episode recently with Terry Kaler, and we talked about how the amateur golf game, because what you're talking about is for one weekend a year for very few select golfers, but golf courses have to survive all year long, right? And that the pros literally play a different course than we play, even if we get to the opportunity to play on that same course, in the sense that they hit driver wedge, right? The only thing they hit longer, I think he even gave a statistic about Dustin Johnson hitting a 7-iron once in one season on his approach shot, is that the only reason they're hitting something more than a 7-iron is because they're going for a par 5 and 2. Right. But they're usually hitting just wedges. Well, we're hitting hybrids. We're hitting, long irons. We're hitting 3-woods and 5-woods for our approach shots. Our game is much harder than their game. Yes? You're laughing at me again.
No, I'm not. I'm agreeing with you. And all of us, as we change our hair color, the swing speed we used to have, we don't have.
Yep.
And that can facilitate equipment changes so that the ball will come in what's known as a playable trajectory. You know, you don't want it coming in like a B-1 bomber skating across the top of the green and expecting it to stop. If that's your flight plan, you might want to leave the flag in no matter where you are and hope that it runs into it. But we are playing a different game than they are. And from that standpoint, I think just to throw the USGA in there again, the year that they had the twin US Opens at Pinehurst, everybody was scratching their head going, how are they going to pull this off? And when you realize that on the 14th hole or the 12th hole or the 7th hole, that if the ladies had a 7 or 8 iron in, the men also had a 7 or 8 iron into that hole. And that becomes very much for the average player. And I think golf courses are doing a better job of this right now. Play the tees that will allow you to hit in an approach shot that is in your scoring iron range, maybe 6, 7, or 8 iron. And that's the minute you get that, it's kind of like looking at every hole and subtracting 155 and going, how far do I have to hit it off the tee? Oh my gosh, if we play these, I got to hit the shortest drive I have to hit is 270. The rest of them are 300. Yeah, Forget it. And let me tell you something. There's a pride thing that you want to go back and play the tips. If you want to play the tips, play one of the par fives from the tips, play one of the par threes from the tips, and play one of the shorter par fours from the tips. Because if you play the long par four from the tip, you're just playing another par five.
Right.
Literally.
That's a great suggestion. I love that suggestion.
If you're going to do that, gosh, this game can be fun.
Yeah. The game is so much more fun when you're scoring well. I can't believe how frustrated I've been with golf over the years. But when I was able to, and I'm not doing it now, but when I was able to hit, a couple rounds in the upper 70s, it was like, wow, that was fun. That's when we get back into talking about the zone and the flow state. That was fun because it was just easy today.
Yeah.
I wasn't thinking about all those things.
And when you're hitting those scoring irons in, it doesn't take long to notice, wow, this is where I need some work. Either you're hitting the fairway and missing the green, or you're missing the fairway and missing the green. So you either got to work on your tee shot or your irons. But if you're having to reach for maximum distance on every shot, you don't know where to work. All you know is you've got to hit the ball further. And that generally is not a great recipe for getting better.
So interesting that, before we started, you had a couple of topics that you suggested that we talk about, and you just led into one of them as we talk about equipment changes and playing wedges into the green, whatnot. And you suggested that maybe we need to talk about these specialty wedges and what they're not telling you. Who's not telling us, and what are they not saying?
So this sounds like a big teaser, and it's like, uh-oh.
It totally is.
Fred, you're going to put this out there.
It was when you said it to me.
You're going to put this out there, and then my friends are going to go, Hallet said something stupid again, and they're going to go, what's so unusual about that?
Joe, you got to assume they're listening.
You know what? Honestly, and I'm going to tell you, and I was even chatting with my better half on this, and she goes, yeah, it usually takes you guys a couple of years to figure out what's going on. And she's like, but when you're in the background, so I've watched this phenomenon that's been going on, and it's very prevalent with college golfers. These are young kids that have great swing speeds. And I'm speaking both on the men's team and the ladies' team in college golf. And over the past 2 years for certain, maybe a little longer, all of a sudden I keep hearing the same comment. And like there's something going on there. And I know it with my game, but I'm going, I don't play as much as I used to. I probably don't have a swing speed. So, and one of them that comes out a ton is like you hear a 20-year-old kid go, I don't get it. And all the college kids, they always have the latest equipment and everything else, right? They're always
Sure.
up to, they take care of the teams, and they go, I just don't get it. I used to hit this 56-degree wedge, 115, 120. I can't hit it over 105 anymore.
Wah.
Still a 56-degree wedge, still whatever. And I'm hearing the same comment from the young ladies on the university teams, and they're like, 56 used to be my go-to at 100 to 103 yards. I can't get it over 95 anymore.
I'm sorry, I have a sound effect for that.
Yeah, wah-wah. Sounds like Charlie Brown's teacher. Now, and I know you've had some of the greatest short game guys in the business, like James Seekman and Stan Utley, and they would kind of go, well, first of all, if you're trying to hit your wedge full out, you've got a problem.
Right.
I mean, because you deserve every evil that's about to come your way. But I went the other route, and I said, I'm going to go to an authority on this. So there is a tremendously gifted instructor up at Caves Valley named Bernie Najar. And Bernie happens to teach a guy named Kyle Berkshire. If you don't know who Kyle is, he is the world long drive champion, the kid with the long hair and the mullet, the 5-time champion. And I texted Bernie.
Bryson's buddy, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I said, Bernie, I have a question that I'm sure you have run into, because a lot of the guys you teach, now he teaches tour players, and he said, a lot of the guys you teach, and I said, here's my question. I just posed it. I said, I keep hearing this comment. Is it me, or are these boutique and specialty wedges, you got Titleist Vokey, the Cleveland with Callaway, you got the Glides with Ping, these great wedges that we have now, are they going shorter than they used to? Bernie sends back, and I, figuratively, I'm going to grab my phone and find the message, but it was the greatest response I've ever seen. Interesting question. I'll get back to you in a second. He comes back, the first line. First of all, wedges are for losers. They should drive the green. And he said, no. What's happened on these wedges, the 60 degrees, the 58s, the 56s, 54s, 52s, is they are coming up with so many different sole configurations and heel relief and toe relief and different shavings that the center of gravity on those clubs keeps getting a little higher and higher. And that center of gravity starts pushing the club more under the ball. So when a player tries to swing that club faster and hit it further, it actually gets more spin, goes higher and shorter. But around the green, you can operate that club at a much slower swing speed. And now you see these guys and ladies out there hit these chip shots, and you're like, how in the world do they get that ball to stop? Downhill at a long grass on a downhill green. That's impossible. So the design of these wedges has become one where at a slower speed around the green, or in your 20, 30, 40, 50-yard shot where you're not swinging full, they're phenomenal. But the overall distance on those, when you try and crank it up to your full swing and normal swing, it's not going where it should be. Now, Bernie ended that and saying, if you look at some of the senior tour players, they are still playing wedges from 3 and 4 years ago. They're just getting them regrooved every year because of the weighting. They can use that extra distance. And Bernie's last sentence said, if you wanted a suggestion for a player like that, I would get the gap wedge that goes with the set. And sometimes it's an A wedge, and sometimes it says G on it. And as fate would have it, the very next day after that, I was in College Station, Texas, standing on the tee with Stacy Lewis. She had just come from a fitting at her club supplier is Mizuno. And she said, I got a distance I can't hit, and they're having trouble dialing these wedges in because they're not going as far anymore. She said, so I put this in the bag. What do you think she pulled out? The gap wedge. Exactly as and I took a picture of it, and I said, Bernie, did you two guys talk before I got here? And I'm telling you that from the player that is maybe kind of the more athletic player, doesn't have to be the college player, but if you like to go after that wedge, give that gap wedge that matches your set of clubs, give that another look. when you first got it, you probably got your custom wedges and everything, and you put that guy over in the garage. And little by little, it's time to move the backup quarterback off of the bench and put him near the sidelines and let him take a look at what's going on.
It's interesting you say that because I've been playing PXG clubs for about a year, and it came with a gap and a pitching wedge. And I have found that I can really get a lot. I don't have to have a distance to pull out that gap wedge. Sometimes I choke up and I can knock 10 yards off of it. Right. Sometimes I use it as not necessarily a putting stroke, but if I just need to keep it along the ground, keep it low and let it roll up, I can do that from 45, 50 yards.
Yeah.
So, but what about like these boutique wedges, these companies, like we were talking about Terry Kaler and Edison Golf, and, he comes up with lots of soul designs and whatnot, makes his clubs unique. Can those boutique companies, can they compete with the Vokies and the Clevelands? And are they of value to the average golfer? I'm always talking about the amateur golfer.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And for the amateur golfer, there's two things that, there is physics of the golf club, and you can't argue with those, literally. And there's physics of the driver, and you can't argue with those. So that boutique wedge that you're going to look at, here's your two criteria. Number one, use them at controlled swing speeds, not full out. Doesn't have to be slow, but controlled swing speeds. And two, and I'm being honest about this, if it's a cool looking club and you go, God, I love the way this wedge looks, then doggone it, stick it in your bag, because you're dying to get to that spot to use the wedge. And that's the same spot you used to go, oh God, I'm here again on 15. I hate this. At least if you have a club in front of you and you go, I really like the way this thing looks. Controlled swing speed, looks good. Look, the grooves are going to be fine. The bounce is going to be fine on it. That's stuff you can find through any manufacturer, any fitting. But there's an area for those boutique wedges, just like there is putters. We talked about lab golf a little bit earlier, and it's what meets the eye is a big confidence builder. You and I have had to go to things in our careers, and we've gone and we've had to put on a coat and tie, and you get halfway out the door and you go, I look like an idiot in this tie. Take the tie off and put a better tie on. Then you feel better and you have a little more confidence.
But I'm only laughing because, I really relate to
that. I returned the tie I had to wear once. I might have regifted it. Let's be honest.
All right, let's change topics for a little bit because I'm really interested to get your impression of something that I've talked a lot about this year. And it's weird because I brag about the fact that I don't talk about the PGA or the LPGA tour. I have to say LPGA because you're here. But I don't like talking about it because it's old news by the time a podcast comes out. But I was really enamored with TGL this year. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that it could be the future of how we do golf. I loved listening to these guys talk with each other, strategize with each other, give each other a hard time, right? I thought it was a blast. And 2 hours of golf, yes, I love it. How did you feel about TGL this year?
I'm a huge fan. I really am. Yes. And Fred, you've talked enough about it with your friends too. And I guarantee you within 2 sentences or 3 sentences, anytime somebody talks about it, I love the shot clock. That's, right. I mean, there it is right there. And it's beautiful. I don't know how you would ever do it on a live tour event, but at some point it would almost behoove to have that 45-second shot clock behind the green to go, dude, that guy's taking a minute and a half. And then you look at the official timing him and you're like, he's been checking his emails for the last 45 seconds. Oh, let me start the buzzer, So,
and then all of a sudden, ba-boom, ba-boom,
yeah,
ba-boom, ba-boom. right?
And it's kind of like it's so relatable today because so many people and the affordability of the technologies and the launch monitors and the home simulators and the net. I mean, people can do this in their house and they can kind of play the same. And, if you grow this thing out, you go, well, you have your TGL leagues, but now you have your amateur leagues. And now you can get into sort of a bracket division and go, the people that win the Southeast Division are going to be part of the
Wow.
TGL championship. And maybe the amateurs take on the pros. And I mean, I love it. It simulates golf, but it simulates the strategy. It simulates the pressure that they're under with the time clock. It simulates the camaraderie in this game, and
Which you don't have in tournament play because everyone's on their own island, right? But here you have team golf, which we know team golf works.
Yes.
Between Ryder Cup and President's Cup, yeah, we know it works.
I can't wait to see where it grows to be honest with you, because I think all it's going to do is keep getting better and better, and to have a time limit and go, hey, I can watch this. Not only that, I can actually go back and I'm of that age. So do we still DVR or do we TiVo, or are we way past that now?
We record it.
We record it. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
We don't say videotape anymore. We just record it.
But then, sometimes you go, oh, don't tell me what happened in the last round of the Masters. And then you rewatch it and you're like, okay, that's 6 hours out of my life. And you're trying to fast forward. And TGL, you're like, man, I can watch this and I can do it quick. And it's so accessible and it's so relatable to, there's a gentleman who I call the authority in the game of golf, and you need to have him on the podcast once. His name is Tim Briand, and he is with Foresight. And he is the source of information of nobody I've ever seen. At this point, worldwide, 44% of golf is off green grass.
Tell me that number again. 44% off
If
green.
I'm not incorrect, and I'll tell you what, after the podcast, I'll come back and you can put a different number down there if that's what it was. But it's so high to think that over 40% of the golfers, that's probably a better number, are not playing golf on a golf course. They're at Topgolf. They're at Putt Shack. They're at simulator places that are popping up all over the place. They're at their house. They're playing the World Golf League. And Fred, you and I have a golf date with Jim and Bob every Thursday night. We are in our simulator room because we can afford the simulator. And oh, by the way, this week we are playing Oakmont, and it's you and I best ball against their alternate shot. I mean, these things are going on all over the world. So the overall number of golfers is insane, but how much golf is non-golf course golf is amazing. And that TGL is, I love everything that grows this game, literally. And I really love Topgolf. Everybody's like, do you like it? And I'm like, well, I'm kind of new. I go, well, then make sure you're on the second floor or higher because every shot will be airborne, regardless of what's happening, right? But sometimes that's as far as they go, because it is fun to go there. It is fun to hang with your friends. It's fun to get a little bite to eat and maybe grab a brew or something and have a few chuckles. But the number of people that are like, gosh, I'd like to go try this on a golf course because it's a different game. But all of a sudden the simulator golf, and then you see the TGL and you're like, okay, let's do that. That is just pushing, and it's hanging the biggest. It's not a carrot. It's a giant iced chocolate cupcake at the end of that stick that people are going, we are going to take a trip and we are going to go play Sand Hills, Nebraska, and we're all in. Let's go. And the same people who might not have played the game 4 or 5 years ago, but learned it on a simulator, and they get pushed forward there.
But does it grow the game?
I think it grows the game, and I also think that it grows the participation on green grass golf courses.
You do think so?
Yeah, because, at some point you go, oh my gosh, I had no idea the hill on this hole was that bad.
Yeah,
And then
right.
you get that real life tingle and you're like, oh man, this is insane. I can't believe we're here. So it grows.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because is TGL leading the way in simulator golf? Or are they just like, this is going on and it really represents what is going on, and now we have a media outlet to it that people are like, oh, you see, we are doing that, right? So
I
you think that the future of simulator golf is the real thing?
Yeah, I think they opened that can and all of a sudden they're going,
That was your
good
sound
Lord.
effect.
Yeah, I mean,
Of
yeah.
opening the can.
Yeah.
I was like, what was that noise you just made?
but literally, when you go over to Korea, so much of the golf is played in simulator rooms. I mean, that is your golf outing because the courses are so difficult to get on. And all of a sudden they peered open through that door and you go, my gosh, people have been doing this all over the world for the last 8 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And now it's not like, come on, everybody, let's go do this. You're like, do you guys realize how many people have been doing this for the last 6, 7, 8 years?
Yeah.
And it's big fan, huge fan.
Huge fan. And I think that, in the 50s and 60s, it was bowling alleys. I think simulators, I actually think if you get a room that has simulators and bowling and maybe even a couple ping pong tables, put a stage in a bar, we've got a room, right? So do you like on TGL?
Ping, putt, and pin. Ping, putt, and pins.
be careful. Yes, exactly. Now, do you like on TGL how they're playing courses, holes that are designed that no one's ever seen before? It's like, we hear about, oh, I want to go play Bethpage Black because that's where the pros. Well, you can't play that course and the way they play it.
Right.
But this is a course only the hand-selected best players in the world are getting to play. Do you like that? Or do you wish you saw a little bit of Pebble, a little bit of St. Andrews, a little bit of, Sawgrass?
I think in a different way, like with TGL and some of those holes that's another avenue for the amateur, be it a golfer, an amateur architect could go, I have an idea for a hole you guys could play. And
Yeah.
Fred, you and I'm
God.
surprised they haven't done this yet, but I want to say, was his name Lloyd or Loyal Chapman, that used to make the paintings of the insane golf holes, like the side of the Grand Canyon where it just dropped. And then, you had the Machu Picchu hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, again, another avenue that brings more people into the game and interest to kind of go, hey, why don't you design a hole? Maybe it can end up on TGL. And
that's a great idea to open it up for a design contest. Wow.
Yeah.
An awesome idea.
Again, and it's, once that's out there, then you go, how do I play that golf hole on my simulator? That looks like so much fun.
Right.
And maybe it's not a real golf hole in real life, but you go, I got to play what the pros played.
There you go. Though maybe they should make them available. We had Augie Pisa, who designed, he was one of the 3 designers, and he talked about those assignments. It was great. Do you know, since you were really tapped into the LPGA, do you know of any women that have been approached that they said, hey, we're going to do an LPGA TGL, or possibly even co-ed teams? I just think that what they can do with different teams now, between co-ed, between the seniors, between, bringing in amateurs or not, I think that there's something that they can do to make this, it just doesn't have to be one time of year. It could be, I'm sure ESPN's looking to expand this because it worked for them.
Yeah. And it could definitely be things to do in the off season. Yeah. Do I know if anybody has approached the LPGA? I do not at this point, but I will tell you this. The comments and the interest from the ladies out there is like, that would be so much fun. That would be so much fun. And it's like, oh, we definitely have to get the team. We've got to get, Lexi Thompson and Maria Fossey for length off the tee. And oh my gosh, we can bring Inbee Park out of retirement. She's one of the greatest putters ever. And all of a sudden you go. So the enthusiasm is there on the ladies' side. And I've heard that same comment too. It'd be like, wow, if they could do a co-ed thing, it would be really neat.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, I think for seniors to bring, it's like the thing that was beautiful about seeing Tiger, first of all, is that it made him human. unlike anything we've ever seen. He was having so much fun, and he was vulnerable, and he made mistakes. We love to see that, right? But with we're not going to see Tiger walk 72 holes again.
No,
I think everyone can agree that ship has sailed, unfortunately. But he can play at TG. He can play at SoFi in Florida, right? It's not only around the corner from his house, but seniors don't have to have that 72 holes of walking. They have 2 hours of going from this hole, from hitting over here on the grass to their little funny green.
Fred, you're an influencer in this business, and the only thing that's going through my mind right now is they can definitely have a Wendy's 3-tour challenge on the TGL. And that was, I got to go to those a couple of years with Stacey Lewis, and to talk about how much fun those players had and how much fun the spectators had. But it was neat to see the players. I remember the one year Stacey played with Boo Weekley and Kenny Perry. And to just be standing there to the side and then watch them, Boo was like, how do you hit that shot? And then Kenny Perry's coming over and he's like, I found that as I got older, I changed this a little bit, and that actually gave me more distance on my driver, changing this in my swing. And I'm over there, I can't write things down fast enough. Like, can you speak slower, please? But what a simplistic idea. But that was so much fun for the players. And when you get the co-eds or you bring the seniors in, every one of those players in the group learns something from one another. And it isn't just like, I got to hit it longer or I got to putt better. It's just great being around and go, all right, I'll tell you something I've never told anybody else. Now, here's what I do out of the rough. I actually swing slower than my normal swing, so the grass has time to part out of the way, so the club will hit the back of the ball, whatever. And you hear these things and you're like, okay, we're going to go try that as soon as we're off the course.
Yeah, exactly.
That's where the secrets come out.
Yep. A lot of fun, as is having a conversation with you, my friend. I really, really appreciate you coming back on and helping us celebrate episode 1000 coming up, and being part of our cavalcade of creative geniuses who we get to pick the brains of. Joe Hallet, you're my hero. Thank you, man.
Fred, anytime you call, I tend to pick up the phone. Now, sometimes I don't sign on in time, but my man, what you do for this game, first of all, congrats on the 1,000. You're off on your journey for the next 1,000. And if anybody wants to, the beauty of what you do is any player of any level can learn something, have fun, have a laugh, and take something to the golf course when they're done. And that is the way you get people interested in the game and keep playing. You're doing a great job.